We continue to follow developing news after President Donald Trump announced a historic move to federalize Washington, D.C.'s police force and deploy the National Guard, invoking emergency powers under the D.C. Home Rule Act. Of course, this announcement has sparked significant debate over the future of local governance in our nation's capital. Joining us now to discuss the impact of this move is D.C. Councilmember Brooke Pinto, representing Ward 2, and also the chairperson of the Committee of the Judiciary and Public Safety. Councilmember Pinto, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, nice to be with you.
You know, I wanted to ask you, we're over 24 hours in here after the announcement of President Trump federalizing the police force. Do you believe that D.C. needs help addressing crime?
Well, let me be very clear with the language that we're using here. Our police department is still run by Chief Smith, who reports to the mayor. It is still our local police department who follows DC laws, who follows MPD policy, who follows the Constitution. That has not changed. And that's really important for people to understand because the president used a lot of rhetoric yesterday that does not match the language of the executive order itself. Now, as the chair of the Council's Committee on Judiciary and Public Safety, I am and have been laser focused on ways that we can drive down crime and violence. It's why in 2023, when we were seeing a crime surge, I put together the largest public safety legislative package in our history, Secure DC, which was over 100 different interventions, and worked alongside the mayor, all my council colleagues, the attorney general, and our U.S. attorney and courts, and communities across the district to make sure that we were driving down crime. And I'm so proud that since we've done so, we have cut violent crime in half, leading to a 30-year low.
Councilmember, I wanted to interrupt you real quickly. So you touched on this, but I wanted to back you up. Police stats, right, are showing that crime is down, as you've touched on. Violent crime specifically down 26%, according to MPD. But look, for some residents, it still feels too high. The perception is that, is exactly that. Crime is too high. How do you reconcile with those two realities?
Well, it is still too high. And it is paramount that every person in DC, whether you live here or whether you're working here or visiting here, is safe in every single one of our neighborhoods. And I will not be satisfied with where we are with public safety until that's a reality for every single resident. And so my focus on this issue is not going to let up. I just believe that the best way to do so is through our locally elected council to pass laws that support an ecosystem of prevention and accountability to make sure that we're collaborating with our federal partners to fill judicial vacancies, for them to prosecute cases through the U.S. Attorney's Office, to get illegal guns off our street, to fill the $1 billion hole that they've left in our budget, disallowing us from properly paying our police and firefighters. So there is a lot more work to be done, and I'm focused on doing that work with my colleagues every single day.
What's your understanding about what the National Guard will be able to do? Will they be allowed to arrest people in D.C.?
So the president has called for the National Guard, which, because we're not a state in DC, the DC National Guard falls under the purview of the president. So that is something he technically can do. And they are now working in coordination with MPD on trying to bolster MPD's efforts to support public safety. The National Guard will not have the ability to make arrests. It's a bit of an unusual choice because National Guardsmen are usually doing things like disaster relief, passing out blankets, or being dispatched to war zones. And so them kind of being here in our streets, we thank every service member for their service and their support, but we still need to make sure that our MPD is managing our crime fighting efforts.
All right, Councilmember, before we go, last question for you. We've heard DC's Attorney General Jeanine Pirro arguing that DC's laws are too weak, especially when it comes to juvenile crime and holding them accountable. What's your response to that?
Well, part of what I have been doing over the last several years is looking at our entire ecosystem for juveniles and adults and trying to fill those gaps where I did think that we needed to do more for prevention, or I did think we needed to do more on accountability. That's why I changed the law to allow judges to hold juvenile offenders pre-trial if they've committed violent offenses. It's why I moved just last month emergency legislation to empower the chief to have earlier curfews in certain zones of the city where we are seeing an uptick in juvenile crime. But the vast majority of young people in our city are doing amazing things that need to continue to be supported. And when it comes to our legal landscape, I am always open-minded to looking at gaps and trying to fill them.
All right. Ward 2 Councilmember Brooke Pinto, certainly appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Thank you.